The Velen colony world of Tessara 3 died on a Tuesday morning. Commander Thelvas watched from the orbital defense platform as the dark ships descended through the clouds. They looked like massive creatures, all curves and organic plating, moving through space as if they were swimming through water. His forehands trembled as he activated the emergency broadcast. "This is Tessara the 3rd Defense Command. We have unknown vessels entering atmosphere. Requesting immediate assistance from..." The communication array exploded. Thelvas turned to see 3 of his crew already dead, their bodies torn apart by something that had moved too fast to see. In the doorway stood a creature from nightmares. It was tall, nearly 3 meters, with midnight black skin that seemed to absorb light. 6 eyes arranged in 2 rows glowed with a sickly yellow light. Its mouth opened to reveal rows of crystalline teeth. But what terrified Thelvas most were the trophies hanging from its armor. Skulls, dozens of them, from dozens of different species. "Velen," the creature said in perfect Velen dialect, "you have been judged worthy of the great hunt. Your deaths will bring us honor." Thelvas never heard the rest. The creature moved, and everything went dark. On the surface below, the city of New Vela burned. The Krethil warriors descended like a plague, not to conquer or enslave, but to hunt. They moved through the streets with practiced efficiency, studying their prey, learning their patterns, finding joy in the chase. The Velen people fought back with everything they had. Police forces, civilian militia, even desperate parents defending their children. It made no difference. The Krethil had hunted across 300 worlds. They knew every tactic, every strategy, every last desperate attempt at survival. By sunset, New Vela stood silent. The Krethil had moved on to the next city, leaving only bodies and a single symbol painted in blue Velen blood on every major building. A mark that meant claimed in the old Krethil tongue. 3 weeks later, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The council chamber floated in deep space, deliberately placed far from any inhabitable world. The delegates who gathered there represented what remained of galactic civilization. 47 species. Once there had been 110. Ambassador Krell of the Chithra hive mind stood before the assembly. His insectoid body was covered in scars, each one a memory his entire species shared. He had witnessed the fall of 16 worlds. He knew what was coming. "The Krethil fleet has changed course," he said, his mandibles clicking with stress. "Our long-range scouts detected the shift 3 days ago. They are moving towards Sector 447. Murmurs filled the chamber. Sector 447 was uncharted space, far from established trade routes. Few council members even knew what lay there. "There is nothing in that sector," said Ambassador Eula, her crystalline form shimmering with confusion. "Why would the hunters turn away from populated space?" Krell's antennae drooped. "Our scouts investigated. There is something there. A world. 3rd planet from a yellow star. It has life. Is it sentient?" asked someone from the back. "Yes," Krell said quietly. "They call themselves humans. They have just achieved faster than light travel. Their first probe crossed into deep space 4 months ago." The chamber fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. "Then they are doomed," Eula said, her voice like breaking glass. "We must warn them." "Warn them of what?" Krell's laugh was bitter. "That they will be hunted? That their entire species will become trophies on some Krethil wall? We warned the Valam. We warned the Torsion. We warned everyone. It changes nothing. The Krethil cannot be stopped. They can only be endured." Aboard the Krethil flagship, Eternal Fang, High Hunt Master Jal Tor studied the holographic display of the human homeworld. His tactical team had spent weeks analyzing every aspect of this new prey. "They are weak," his second-in-command reported. "No natural armor. No claws or venom. Their muscle density is average at best. They have soft skin that tears easily. Weapons? Gialtor asked. Primitive chemical projectiles and explosive devices. Their space vessels are slow and minimally armed. They have satellites for communication and observation, but no orbital defense grid. Gialtor's 6 eyes studied the planet rotating slowly before him. Earth, a blue and green world, pretty in its way. The scans show billions of these humans spread across the surface. A worthy hunt, even if the prey seemed disappointingly fragile. What of their culture? He asked. How do they organize? The intelligence officer brought up new data. Divided into nearly 200 separate tribal groups, they call nations. They fight among themselves frequently. War is common in their history. However, they have achieved a tentative peace in recent decades. Then they know warfare, Gialtor mused. That is good. Prey that fights back provides better sport. He studied the images of humans walking through their cities, working in their fields, playing with their young. They looked so fragile, so soft, so utterly unprepared for what was coming. Have they detected us? He asked. No, Hunt Master. We remain beyond their sensor range. Gialtor nodded. Tradition demanded they follow the ritual. 1 solar cycle of observation to learn about the prey. Then the formal declaration of the hunt. Then the glorious chase. Begin deep observation protocols, he ordered. I want to know everything about these humans. How they think. How they fight. How they die. Send scouts to remote settlements. Take specimens. Learn their biology. And if they resist? Gialtor's teeth gleamed. Then we learn from their resistance. Every species teaches us something new. Even the weak ones. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chun stood in the control room of the Lunar Observation Array, staring at an anomaly on her screen. Something large was orbiting beyond Neptune. Something that hadn't been there yesterday. She ran the scans again. And again. The object remained. Too large to be an asteroid. Moving too deliberately to be a comet. Her hand reached for the phone to call NASA headquarters. Then hesitated. It was probably nothing. Space was full of strained readings. This was probably just a glitch, or maybe space debris, or perhaps the object moved. Not drifting, not tumbling. It moved with purpose, adjusting its orbit, turning toward the inner solar system. Toward Earth. Dr. Chun picked up the phone. This is Lunar Array Station, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. I need to speak to the director immediately. I think we have a problem. She didn't know it yet, but humanity's isolation in the galaxy was about to end. The Krathel were coming, and when they arrived, they would learn something that no other species in the galaxy had ever taught them. They would learn what it meant to hunt humanity. The 3 Krathel bioships entered Earth's solar system like ghosts emerging from darkness. They were massive, each one the size of a city, their hulls pulsing with organic energy that made human sensors scream with warnings. Every telescope on Earth turned skyward. Every satellite repositioned. Every military base went on high alert. At the United Nations Emergency Assembly in New York. The room was dead silent as the transmission played. The holographic image showed a Krathel warrior in full ceremonial armor. Behind him stretched a vast hall lined with glass cases, each one containing the preserved remains of creatures from across the galaxy. The camera panned slowly, deliberately, showing hundreds of species. Thousands of individual beings, all posed in their final moments of terror. When the Krathel spoke, his words were translated into every human language simultaneously. People of Earth, we are the Krathel. For 300 cycles, we have traveled the stars seeking worthy prey. You have been found, judged, and deemed acceptable for the great hunt. In one solar rotation of your world, we will descend. We will hunt you. We will take your strongest as trophies. This is our way. This is our honor. You may run. You may hide. You may fight. All prey does. All prey fails. The transmission ended with an image burned into every screen on Earth. The Krathel symbol proclaimed the same mark they had left on 63 extinct species. Secretary General Maria Santos looked around the assembly hall. Representatives from every nation stared back at her, waiting for someone to speak, to say something that would make sense of this nightmare. Recommendations? She asked quietly. General Marcus Webb of the United States military stood. His face was granite. They gave us 1 year. We use it. To do what? Asked the Chinese ambassador. They've destroyed civilizations far more advanced than ours. The transmission showed their weapons, their ships. How do we fight that? We don't fight fair, Webb said simply. They want to hunt? We give them a war. 3 days later, in a small farming town in Montana, the Krathel made their first mistake. A harvester team of 5 warriors descended on the town of Miller's Creek. Population 347. Their mission was simple. Capture specimens, test human physiology, return to the ship. They landed at midnight, expecting the humans to be asleep and vulnerable. Instead, they found every light in town turned on and a welcome committee waiting in the town square. Old Sheriff Tom Bradley stood in the center, his hunting rifle held loosely in his hands. Around him stood farmers, teachers, mechanics, and a veterinarian. Average people. Pray, you boys lost? Tom called out. The Krathel leader stepped forward. Human, you will come with us. Resistance is. Tom shot him in the chest. The Krathel armor absorbed most of the impact, but the warriors stumbled back in shock. No prey had ever attacked first. They always ran. That was how the hunt worked. Then the town of Miller's Creek showed them something new. The ambush was beautiful in its simplicity. Explosives buried under the square. Shooters in every window. Tripwires connected to homemade claymores. The town's mechanic had even rigged an old harvester to drop on the Krathel from the grain silo. 4 Krathel died in the first 30 seconds. The 5th tried to run and made it nearly 10 meters before a teenager named Jake Patterson put 3 rounds through its skull from a church tower. When the sun rose, the people of Miller's Creek stood over 5 dead alien bodies. Tom lit a cigarette and looked at the stars. Well, he said, I guess we just started a war. News of Miller's Creek spread across the internet in minutes. Within hours, every human on Earth knew the truth. The aliens could die. They could be killed. They were mortal. And if they could die, they could be beaten. At the Pentagon, General Webb stood before a room full of military leaders from every major nation. On the screens behind him, medical teams were dissecting the Krathel bodies from Montana. Their biology is carbon-based, same as ours, the chief medical officer reported. They have redundant organs, thick skin, fast healing. But they're not invincible. Bullets work. Explosives work. They breathe oxygen. They can bleed out. They can die. What about their technology? Asked a Russian general. Webb pulled up new images. Their ships are biomechanical. Grown, not built. We've been studying the salvage. It's advanced, but it's not magic. We can't replicate it yet, but we understand the principles. 1 year, said the British commander. They gave us 1 year to prepare. How do we use it? Webb smiled. It was not a kind smile. We do what humans do best. We adapt. We improvise. We turn every advantage we have into a weapon. They're watching us from orbit right now, studying us like we're animals in a zoo. Let them watch. Let them think we're weak. When they come down here, We show them what 7 billion angry humans can do. The plan that emerged was called Predator Protocol. Every nation contributed. Every resource was mobilized. The entire planet became a fortress. Satellites were retrofitted with weapons. Civilian spacecraft were armed. The International Space Station became a weapons platform. On the moon, mass drivers were constructed in secret, hidden in craters on the far side. But the real preparation happened on the ground. Every city was transformed. The buildings were rigged with explosives. Underground tunnels were expanded. Weapon caches were hidden in every neighborhood. The internet became a hive mind of tactical planning, with millions of people sharing ideas on how to kill aliens. Video gamers designed ambush strategies. Hunters taught tracking and stealth. Military veterans trained civilians. Chemical engineers developed new weapons. Biologists studied the Krathal bodies to find weaknesses. The whole world prepared for war. 6 months into the preparation, another Krathal scouting party descended. This time on a suburb of Tokyo. They found a ghost town. Every building empty. Every street silent. Then, traps activated. The Krathal lost 15 warriors before they retreated. The humans suffered 0 casualties. The entire encounter was broadcast live across the globe. On the Krathal flagship, Hunt Master Zhaltor watched the footage with growing unease. Something was wrong. Prey didn't act like this. They didn't prepare. They didn't coordinate. They didn't fight back with such efficiency. Analysis, he demanded. His tactical officer hesitated. Hunt Master, the humans are not behaving as expected. They show no fear. They are organizing on a planetary scale. They are learning from each encounter and adapting their tactics. I recommend we accelerate the timeline. No, Zhaltor said firmly. Tradition demands the full cycle. We will not dishonor ourselves by deviating from the ritual. They are clever prey. That will make the hunt more satisfying. But for the first time in 300 years of hunting, Zhaltor felt something unfamiliar crawl up his spine. Doubt on Earth. General Webb stood in the new command center built deep under the Rocky Mountains. Around him, screens showed every defensive position on the planet, every armed satellite, every prepared ambush point. 3 months remained until the Krathal came. Status report, he ordered. All defensive grids operational. Lunar platforms ready. Civilian evacuation protocols complete. Every major population center is prepared. Webb nodded. Then he activated the planetary broadcast system. People of Earth, he said. In 90 days, they're coming. They think we're prey. They think we'll run and hide. They're wrong. We're going to show them what humans are made of. We're going to teach them why Earth is home to the apex predators of this world. And when we're done, the galaxy will know. Humanity doesn't run. Humanity fights back. The countdown began. The day the Krathal came, every human on Earth held their breath. 1 million warriors descended from the 3 bioships, filling the sky with drop pods that looked like falling stars. They came in waves, targeting every major city on every continent simultaneously. It was a display of overwhelming force, a tactic that had broken the spirit of countless species. High Hunt Master Zhaltor watched from orbit, expecting to see the familiar signs of civilizational collapse, panic, riots, desperate attempts at evacuation. Instead, he saw something that made his blood run cold. Earth went silent. Every broadcast stopped. Every light in every city turned off in perfect synchronization. Millions of humans simply vanished from sensors, disappearing into prepared positions like they had been swallowed by the planet itself. Where did they go? Zhaltor demanded. Before his tactical officer could answer, Earth struck back. The satellites moved first. Thousands of them, repositioned over months, all activating simultaneously. They weren't communication satellites anymore. They were weapons platforms, each one armed with kinetic impactors, laser arrays, and good old-fashioned explosives. The Krathul drop pods began exploding in mid-air. Hundreds of warriors died before reaching the ground. Those who survived the descent found themselves landing in carefully prepared kill zones. The humans had turned their own cities into traps. In New York, Krathul warriors landed in Times Square to find themselves surrounded by buildings rigged with explosives. When they triggered the motion sensors, entire city blocks collapsed inward, burying them in rubble and steel. In Moscow, the warriors fell into tunnels that had been expanded over months. Underground networks turned into mazes filled with ambush points and dead ends. Human soldiers hunted them in the dark using night vision and thermal imaging, technologies the Krathul had never needed because their 6 eyes could see in any spectrum. In Tokyo, the Krathul discovered that humans could fight in 3 dimensions. Drones swarmed from every rooftop, each one carrying shaped charges that targeted weak points in their armor. When the warriors tried to take cover, sniper fire came from unexpected angles. Buildings they thought were safe became death traps. The pattern repeated in every city: Shanghai, London, Rio de Janeiro, Sydney, Lagos, Los Angeles. The Krathul weren't fighting a panicked population. They were fighting a coordinated military force that had spent a year preparing for exactly this moment. Commander Veshrol of the Krathul Vanguard found himself pinned down in what had once been a shopping mall in Berlin. His unit of 50 warriors had been reduced to 12 in the first hour. They had taken cover behind concrete pillars, returning fire at enemies they couldn't see. "This is impossible," his lieutenant hissed. "They fight like they've been hunting for centuries." Veshrol agreed, but wouldn't say it aloud. Every tactic they tried, the humans had a counter for. Every strength they possessed, the humans neutralized. When they tried to use their superior speed, the humans used traps and ambush. When they used their armor, the humans targeted joints and weak points. When they relied on their numbers, the humans appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. A sound echoed through the mall. Footsteps, slow and deliberate. A human soldier emerged from the shadows, rifle raised. She was young, maybe 20 standard cycles. Dirt and blood covered her face, but her eyes were cold and focused. "You wanted a hunt," she said in perfect Krathul. "You got one." The explosion that followed killed Veshrol and his entire unit. The human soldier had been a distraction. The real attack came from shaped charges placed throughout the mall's support structure. Above Earth's atmosphere, the lunar installations activated mass drivers that had been hidden on the moon's far side began launching projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. They weren't aimed at the planet. They were aimed at the 3 Krathul bio-ships. The first ship, Eternal Fang, never saw the impact coming. A solid tungsten rod, moving at relativistic speeds, punched through its organic hull like it was paper. The bioship screamed, a sound that echoed across every frequency. As its living systems began dying, Zhaltor was thrown from his command throne as his ship shuddered. Alarms shrieked. His crew scrambled to assess the damage. "We're venting atmosphere in 7 sections," someone shouted. "The ship is dying. Return fire." Zhaltor roared. "At what target, Huntmaster?" "The attacks came from their moon. Our weapons can't reach that far without significant charge time." On Earth's surface, General Webb watched the satellite feeds with grim satisfaction. The Krathul were used to hunting prey that fought with honor, with traditional tactics, with predictable strategies. They had never faced an enemy that fought like humans. "Phase 2, he ordered. Across the planet, human forces shifted from defensive positions to active hunting. Special operations teams emerged from hiding, targeting Krathul command units. Chemical weapons designed specifically for Krathal biology deployed in concentrated areas. Swarms of autonomous drones began hunting individual warriors. But the most devastating attack came from something the Krathal never expected. Information warfare. Human hackers had spent months studying the Krathal bioships, learning their communication protocols from salvaged technology. Now they unleashed a coordinated cyber attack, broadcasting false orders, creating confusion, turning the Krathal coordination against itself. Krathal units began receiving orders to fall back to positions that didn't exist. Command structures broke down. Warriors found themselves isolated, cut off from support, hunted by an enemy that seemed to know their every move. In Paris, a Krathal hunting pack of 20 warriors followed what they thought were retreat orders into the catacombs. They realized too late it was a trap. The French resistance had prepared the tunnels with enough explosives to level a city block. Only 3 warriors escaped, and they carried stories that would haunt the Krathal for generations. Jaltor watched his warrior count drop with mounting horror. In 6 hours of combat, he had lost 30% of his ground forces. 30%. Against a species they had deemed barely worthy of the hunt. "Recall everyone," he ordered. "Full retreat to the ships." But the humans weren't done. As Krathal warriors tried to reach their extraction points, they ran into a new problem. Humanity's air forces had been quietly waiting. Now they struck. Fighter jets that had been hidden in underground bunkers emerged and began hunting drop ships. Missiles that had been saved for this exact moment filled the sky. Even civilian aircraft had been armed and joined the fight. To Krathal, retreat became a slaughter. By the time the surviving warriors reached orbit, they had lost over half their number. The Eternal Fang was crippled and dying. The other 2 bioships had sustained heavy damage from repeated lunar impacts. Jaltor stood in the shattered remains of his command center, trying to process what had happened. This was supposed to be a hunt, a glorious chase. Instead, it had been a massacre. "Huntmaster," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving a broadcast from Earth. It's directed at us. At you specifically." The screen activated, showing a human military officer standing in front of a pile of Krathal bodies. His name appeared in translated text, General Marcus Webb. "Hi, Huntmaster Jaltor," the human said. "You came to Earth to hunt us. You made one critical mistake. You thought we were prey. We're not. We're the species that hunted every predator on our planet into extinction or submission. We're the species that turned wolves into pets and made them love us. We're the species that looked at the deadliest creatures in our world and asked, how can we kill that? And we always found the answer." Webb stepped closer to the camera. His eyes were hard. "Your hunt is over. Our war has begun. We're coming for your other ships, your bases, your worlds. Every single Krathal who thought sentient beings were prey. This is not a threat. This is a promise. We're going to hunt you across the galaxy until you understand what you've done, until you feel what every species you've killed felt." The screen went black, but not before showing one final image. The Krathal symbol for claimed modified with a single human addition. A red X drawn through it, and new words underneath in dozens of languages. Never again. 3 months after Earth's victory, the first human interstellar fleet left the solar system. They flew and captured Krathal bioships that human engineers had reverse-engineered and improved. The ships still looked organic and alien on the outside, but inside they were filled with human technology, human weapons, and human determination. Admiral Patricia Chun commanded the fleet from the bridge of the former Eternal Fang, now renamed Humanity's Fang. She stood before the viewport, watching the stars streak past as they traveled faster than light toward their target. Trophy World Sigma 7. Admiral. Her science officer reported. We're approaching the system. Sensors detect minimal defenses. The Krathel aren't expecting us. Good, Chun said. Let's keep it that way. All ships, battle formation. Weapons free. This is not a rescue mission. This is a message. The human fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of the system. Before them floated a dead world covered in massive structures. Trophy halls. Museums of extinction. The preserved remains of 63 species that the Krathel had hunted to extinction. Chun felt her jaw clench. Every building down there was a graveyard. Every display case held someone's ancestors, someone's children, someone's future that had been stolen. Send the message, she ordered. The broadcast went out on all frequencies, in every known language. Directed at the Krathel defenders. This is Admiral Patricia Chun of the Terran Fleet. You have 48 hours to evacuate this system. Anyone remaining after that deadline will be considered hostile. This world and everything on it will be destroyed. You hunted them. You displayed them like trophies. Now you'll watch as we erase your greatest shame from existence. The hunt is over. The Krathel response came within minutes. 3 defense fleets dropped out of FTL, surrounding the human ships. They outnumbered the Terran fleet 5-1. Humans, the Krathel commander broadcast. You have entered sacred space. Leave now or be destroyed. Chum smiled coldly. You want to know what we learned from your trophy worlds? We learned how every species you hunted tried to defend themselves. And more importantly, we learned how you defeated them. We studied their tactics, their weapons, their mistakes. Every species down there taught us something. You turned them into a library, and we read every page. You are still outnumbered, the Krathel commander said. Numbers don't win wars, Chum replied. We do. The battle that followed lasted exactly 47 minutes. The humans fought like nothing the Krathel had ever encountered. They used tactics stolen from the Velan, weapons inspired by the Torsion, defensive formations learned from the Chithra. Every extinct species contributed to humanity's strategy, but more than that, humans added their own touch. They were unpredictable, chaotic. They made suicide runs that worked because no sane species would attempt them. They hacked Krathel communications and fed false information. They targeted not just ships, but the bioneural systems that controlled them, turning the Krathel's living vessels against themselves. When the last Krathel ship retreated, Chun surveyed the battlefield. 18 enemy ships destroyed, 23 disabled, the rest fleeing in disorder. Human casualties, 3 ships damaged, 0 destroyed. Begin landing operations, Chun ordered. I want teams on the surface. Catalog everything. Learn everything. Then burn it all. On the surface of Trophy World Sigma 7, human soldiers walked through the halls of extinction. They found the Velan, preserved in their final moments of terror. They found the Torsion, an aquatic species whose entire world ocean had been drained. They found the Chithra, their hive mind memories frozen in crystalline displays. They found 63 species, all murdered for sport. All turned into trophies. Sergeant Mike Rodriguez stood before a case containing what had once been a mother and child of the Velan species. The plaque beneath them described them as exemplary prey, displaying maternal defensive instincts. He thought of his own daughter back on Earth. He thought of every parent on every world who had died trying to protect their children from these monsters. Sir, his lieutenant said quietly, we've cataloged everything. The demolition teams are ready. Rodriguez nodded. Do it. But first, we remove the remains. Every species gets returned to their homeworld if it still exists. If it doesn't, we give them a proper memorial. They deserve better than to be trophies. The word spread through the human fleet like wildfire. They weren't just warriors. They were liberators of the dead. Avengers for species that couldn't speak anymore. And the galaxy noticed Dodd at the Galactic Council station. Ambassador Krell of the Chithra watched the footage of Trophy World Sigma 7 burning. Human ships had carefully removed every preserved being, treating them with dignity even in death. Then they had reduced the entire world to molten glass. "They're doing what we should have done centuries ago," said Ambassador Eula. "They're not just fighting back. They're ending it. At what cost?" Another council member asked. "Look at what they're becoming. Efficient killers. Relentless hunters. They're turning into the very thing they're fighting." Krell's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "No. The Krathel hunt for pleasure, for honor, for sport. The humans hunt for survival, for justice, for those who can no longer defend themselves. There's a difference, is there?" Eula asked. "Can you really tell the difference between a predator and a protector when both are covered in blood?" Krell didn't have an answer to that. Across the galaxy, the pattern repeated. Human fleets struck at Krathel installations with surgical precision. They hit breeding grounds, supply bases, shipyards. They rescued species that were in the early stages of being hunted and escorted them to safety. But they also did something else. Something that terrified the Krathal more than any weapon. They hunted the hunters. Special operations. Teams tracked down individual Krathal warriors who had participated in the extinction events. They found them on their home colonies, on vacation worlds, in places they thought they were safe. And they brought them to justice. The trials were broadcast across every civilized world. The Krathal were forced to watch as humans presented evidence of their crimes. Survivor testimony from species they had nearly destroyed. Footage from the trophy worlds. Then came the sentences. The worst offenders were not executed. That would have been too quick, too merciful. Instead, they were placed in facilities humans called preserves. Contained environments where they would be watched, studied, and hunted in controlled conditions. Forever. "You wanted the hunt," the human judges told them. "Now you understand what it means to be prey." 6 months after leaving Earth, Admiral Chun's fleet arrived at the Krathal home system. She had picked up reinforcements along the way. Human ships, Chithra vessels, Velen survivors, Torsion remnants. Every species that had suffered at Krathal hands had sent ships to join the fleet. They were not there to hunt. They were there to end the hunting forever. Jaltor watched from the surface of his homeworld as the sky filled with enemy ships. Thousands of them. More than the Krathal had ships to counter. He stood in the Hall of Ancient Hunts, surrounded by trophies dating back thousands of years. His ancestors had built an empire on the bones of their prey. They had believed they were the apex predators of the galaxy. They had been wrong. The communication came directly to him. Admiral Chun's face appeared on every screen in the Krathiel capital. "Hi, Huntmaster Jaltor. Your civilization has committed crimes against every principle of sentient life. You have hunted 63 species to extinction. You have treated thinking, feeling beings as prey. You have built monuments to murder and called it honor." Jaltor said nothing. What could he say? Every word was true. "We could destroy you," Chun continued. "We have the firepower. We have the numbers. We have the motivation. Every species you've hurt wants revenge. It would be easy. It would be justified. Then why don't you?" Jaltor asked. "Because we're not you," Chun said simply. "We don't hunt for sport. We don't kill for trophies. We fight to protect. And what we need to protect the galaxy from is not all Krathal. It's the idea that sentient beings can be prey." "What are you saying?" "Surrender," Chun said. "Complete and total. Disarm your fleets. Open your worlds to inspection. Submit to galactic law. Every Krathel who participated in extinction hunts will face trial. Your trophy worlds will be dismantled. Your hunting culture will end. And if we refuse, Chun's expression hardened. Then we show you what humanity does to those who threaten the innocent. We won't hunt you like you hunted others. We'll hunt you like we hunted the saber-toothed tiger, the direwolf, and every other predator that threatened our species. We'll hunt you to extinction, not for sport, not for honor, but because you're too dangerous to exist. Jaltor looked around the Hall of Ancient Hunts one last time, at the trophies, at the evidence of his species' greatest shame. We surrender, he said quietly. 1 year after the Krathel surrender, the galaxy looked very different. The Galactic Council met in its chamber for the first time with human representation. Ambassador James Morrison stood at the podium, facing delegates from 47 species. Some looked at him with gratitude, others with fear, a few with suspicion. The Terran Accord is simple, Morrison said, projecting the document for all to see. Every sentient species has the inherent right to exist without fear of being hunted. Every species has the right to defend itself with whatever force is necessary. No species shall treat another as prey. And who enforces this accord? Asked Ambassador Eula. Who decides what constitutes defense versus aggression? Morrison nodded to the back of the chamber. Admiral Chun entered, followed by representatives from the Chithra, Velen, and Torsion species. We do, Morrison said. Together. Earth doesn't seek to rule the galaxy. We seek to protect it. We formed the Mutual Defense Initiative. Any species that is threatened can call for help. Any species that chooses to hunt others will face us all. So humanity appoints itself as the galaxy's guardian? Someone asked skeptically. No, Morrison replied. Humanity appoints itself as one guardian among many. We learned something from fighting the Krathel. We learned that strength means nothing if it's not used to protect those who can't protect themselves. Every species here has that right. Every species here can join the initiative. Ambassador Krull stood, his scarred exoskeleton reflecting the chamber lights. The Chithra hive mind supports this proposal. We have seen what humanity does with power. They don't conquer. They liberate. They don't destroy. They preserve. When they found our people's remains on the trophy worlds, they returned them to us for proper burial. They gave dignity to our dead when we had abandoned hope of ever finding them. One by one, other species voiced their support. Not all of them. Some remained skeptical. But enough agreed to make the accord a reality. On Earth, in the city of Geneva, a different kind of gathering took place. The War Crimes Tribunal had been in session for 6 months. Thousands of Krathel stood trial for their roles in extinction events. Each trial was broadcast across the galaxy. Each verdict was deliberated carefully. Judge Sarah Okonkwo presided over the case of Huntmaster Jaltor. Before her was evidence of 3 centuries of hunting, 63 extinct species, billions of individuals killed for sport. Huntmaster Jaltor, she said, you have been found guilty of crimes against sentient life on a scale this galaxy has never seen. The prosecution has called for execution. The defense has argued for mercy, citing your cooperation during the surrender. Do you have any words before sentencing? Jaltor rose slowly. His 6 eyes looked dimmer than before. The proud warrior who had commanded fleets now stood broken and defeated. What I did was legal under Krathel law, he said quietly. It was our tradition, our culture, our way. For thousands of years, we hunted. It was all we knew. That doesn't excuse it, Okonkwo said. No, Jaltor agreed. It doesn't. I understand that now. When I look at what we did, at the species we destroyed, at the lives we took, I see them as people, as individuals, not prey. It took humanity to show us what we were. Monsters. We were monsters. He looked directly at the judge. I deserve death. Every Krathel who participated in the hunts deserves death. But I ask for one thing. Let my punishment serve as a lesson. Let every species in the galaxy see what happens when you treat others as less than sentient. Let them see that there are consequences. Okonkwo nodded. Your sentence is as follows. You will not be executed. Instead, you will spend the rest of your natural life in the preserve facility designated containment. Alpha, you will be monitored, studied, and yes, you will experience what it means to be prey in a controlled environment. You will understand, in a way you never could before, what you inflicted on others. But more importantly, she continued, you will serve as a living reminder. Delegations from across the galaxy will be allowed to visit the preserve. They will see you. They will hear your testimony. They will learn from your crimes. You wanted to be remembered for your hunts, Huntmaster. You will be. Just not in the way you imagined. In orbit around a quarantined world. The preserve system activated. The world below had been terraformed to contain multiple environments, forests, oceans, deserts, mountains, all monitored by thousands of sensors and patrolled by autonomous systems. Within those environments lived the remaining Krathal, who had been convicted of the worst crimes. Not free, but not in cages either. They lived as their prey had lived, always watched, always studied, always knowing they could be hunted at any moment by training exercises or research teams. Director Michael Reeves watched from the orbital station as a group of young Krathal, born after the surrender, were escorted through the facility on an educational tour. They needed to see what their ancestors had done. They needed to understand why they were now the most restricted species in the galaxy. How do you feel about this? Asked Dr. Lisa Park, the station's head psychologist. Running what is essentially a prison planet. Reeves was quiet for a long moment. I feel like we're preventing future genocides. Every young Krathal who comes through here learns the truth. They see the price their species paid for treating others as prey. They see what humanity does to those who hurt the innocent. But is it cruel? Park pressed. Keeping them here forever? Is it crueler than what they did to 63 species? Reeves countered. Those species don't get to come back. Those civilizations don't get second chances. At least the Krathals still exist. They can change. They can grow. But they have to earn the right to rejoin civilization. On Earth, in Washington, D.C., General Webb stood in the newly built memorial to the lost species. The building stretched for miles, with each room dedicated to one of the 63 extinct species. Human artists had worked with surviving records, genetic data, and testimonies to recreate what each species had been like. Their culture, their achievements, their dreams. Webb stopped in the Velen section. Holographic displays showed their cities, their families, their daily lives. A recording played of Velen music, composed centuries before their extinction. We couldn't save you, Webb said quietly to the display. But we made sure it won't happen again. Your deaths meant something. His daughter, now a lieutenant in the Terran fleet, joined him. Dad, the new recruits are asking questions. They want to know if we're the good guys. If what we did was right. What do you tell them? Webb asked. I tell them that war doesn't have good guys and bad guys. It has survivors and victims. We chose to be survivors so others wouldn't have to be victims. Webb nodded. That's a good answer. Better than mine. What's your answer? I tell them that humanity didn't start this war. We didn't want it. But we finished it. And if someone threatens innocence again, we'll finish that too. Not because we're heroes, but because someone has to stand between predators and prey. Might as well be us. 5 years after first contact, The galaxy had adapted to its new reality. The trophy worlds had all been dismantled. The remains of extinct species have been returned to their homeworlds or placed in memorial sites. The Krathel species existed under strict supervision, slowly rebuilding their culture around principles of peace rather than hunting. The Terran Accord had grown to include 73 species. The Mutual Defense Initiative had stopped 3 potential conflicts before they escalated. Humanity's technology was shared freely with allies, raising the defensive capabilities of the entire galaxy. But Earth itself had changed too. A generation of soldiers who knew only war struggled to find peace. PTSD support groups filled every city. Memorials to the 2 billion humans who died during the initial invasion stood in every nation's capital. In a small town in Montana, old Sheriff Tom Bradley sat on his porch, watching the stars. His great-granddaughter, 10 years old, sat beside him. "Grandpa Tom?" she asked. "Is it true you shot the first alien?" Tom chuckled. "I shot at him, honey. Bunch of other folks actually killed them. But yeah, Miller's Creek was one of the first places to fight back. Were you scared?" "Terrified," Tom admitted. "But you know what I learned that day? Being scared doesn't matter. What matters is what you do when you're scared. Do you run? Do you hide? Or do you stand up and protect what matters?" "What did you choose?" "I stood," Tom said simply. "We all did. And that's why you're here asking me questions instead of being someone's trophy on an alien wall." The girl thought about this. "Grandpa, are there more aliens out there who might want to hurt us?" Tom looked up at the stars, at the ships that now patrolled Earth's space, at the satellites that stood guard over humanity's homeworld. "Maybe," he said. "Probably. The galaxy's a big place, and not everyone in it is friendly. Will we be ready?" Tom smiled. "Honey, we're humanity. We turned wolves into puppies. We climbed to the top of Earth's food chain using nothing but our brains and our determination. We looked at every creature that wanted to eat us and found a way to survive. When the Krathel came to hunt us, we hunted them right back." He ruffled her hair gently. "So yeah, we'll be ready. We're always ready. Because that's what humans do. We survive. We adapt. We protect our own. And anyone who forgets that learns the hard way." In the darkness of space, a Terran patrol ship crossed paths with a Krathel transport vessel.